All right. Well, good afternoon to all, and this is the beginning of our Google Hangout with Tony Elumelu. My name is Paul Swider. I work with the U.S. Department of State, and I work with the YALI Network, which is our primary audience for this event. And we'll be speaking with Mr. Elumelu in a moment, and we'll be taking questions from the YALI Network members for the next 2 hours or so. Sorry that we started a little bit late. We were working out some technical difficulties, but I think we've got them resolved now. And so I will go right to our special guest. Mr. Elumelu, thank you so very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Paul, and welcome everyone.
Let's just chat, you and I, for a few minutes. I understand that your boot camp just finished over the weekend. Can you tell me a little bit about how that went?
Now, the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program held the first inaugural boot camp last weekend, and it was very successful. We had 1,000 African entrepreneurs from 51 African countries all gathered here in Nigeria. It was quite exciting. In fact, the intellectual energy and excitement in the room was quite impressive, and I believe the journey towards reposition our continent in a much more sustainable manner has actually begun. I saw in the young entrepreneurs a lot of hope, a lot of excitement, a lot of optimism about the future. I just believe that they need a little more support like this from other Africans and also friends of Africa, and having our governments also provide the enabling environment. These entrepreneurs will change the face of the continent.
Very good. I'm sure there was a lot of energy in that room for those couple of days, huh?
So much of it, a lot of it. You could feel it, a lot of it.
Did you see any younger versions of yourself there?
Well, I said to them that what they owe me in return for the $100 million endowment is their success. I want them to succeed because I believe the success of these entrepreneurs will mean success for all of Africa, and not just for themselves, for their families. So I hope that we'll see more. As the Vice President of Nigeria put it, he charged them when he addressed them. He said he would like to see more little Elumelus come out of these 1,000 entrepreneurs.
Very good. I wonder if you could just take a minute or two and tell us a little bit. I mean, we're all familiar with your position and your success, but I hear from talking to your staff that your own personal story is interesting and something that you might like to share with us.
I think the interesting part of it is that I was not born with a silver or golden spoon, but I worked hard. I come from a modest middle income family, and I schooled in Africa. I have worked all my life in Africa, and I've managed to. I started as an entrepreneur at a relatively early stage. My colleagues and I took over a distressed financial institution, turned it around, and grew it to become one of the leading Pan-African banks today, presence in 19 African countries, with over 10 million customers, and investments in other areas beyond banking, like power, like real estate and hospitality, agriculture, and healthcare. But the key message here is that we do have challenges in Africa, but there are a lot of opportunities. And if you're hardworking entrepreneur, you should succeed in Africa. So my message to the young, upcoming African entrepreneurs is you should dare to dream, you should stay focused, you should work hard, you should be disciplined, you should forgo early basic consumption, you should save, and learn to execute, learn to translate your dream to reality by working. And of course, endowed Africans should also support these upcoming entrepreneurs so they will succeed beyond all of us, because in them lies the future of the continent.
All right. Thank you so much for explaining that to us and describing. I appreciate that. I think what we'll do now is we'll go to the other members who have joined us online and just have each of them give us just a 30-second introduction of themselves, their name, where they're from, and what they do.
Thank you very much, Paul. Good afternoon, Mr. Elumelu. My name is Takumi Chinwanzo. I'm an entrepreneur from Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, and I'm the co-founder of a company called Elumelu Technology. We are more commonly referred to as the Startup Factory because our work revolves around working with university students, training in entrepreneurship, and then getting them to work in teams to create sustainable startups. This is in line with my personal vision, which is to help build 100 sustainable startups across Africa by the year 2020. So for this year alone, we're already working with about 26 startups, and I'm inspired by the work that you've begun.
Right down, right down, right down.
Thank you.
Bethu, how are you?
All right, and you've already met Piju, I guess. And then Helena, are you? Can you hear us? Are you online? Hello, Helena in Ghana. All right, maybe she dropped off. Abdi, can you hear us and give us a brief introduction?
Yes, I'm Abdi from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. I work for local NGO. I co-founded in 2006. We work with agro-pastoralist communities in lowland Ethiopia of two prone regions. We work to improve livelihood through increasing productivity and profits of smallholders by focusing on helping them grow more enough food for their families and markets, by training them to master technical skills. And we also use a comprehensive market system so to increase efficiencies along entire value chain. We empower agro-pastoralists also to cope up with growth so that they can secure their malnutrition and food out of that.
All right, thank you, Abdi. And Lulu, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. All right, so thank you, Paul. Good afternoon, Mr. Elumelu. My name is Lulu Hangala. Great to meet you. My name is Lulu Hangala, and I am a media entrepreneur. I just co-founded a media company called Dagon Media, and we're a creative agency, and I advise on media, social media, and disruptive marketing practices for brands in Zambia, and soon going to be extending to Mozambique and Zimbabwe.
Wow. Well done, well done, well done.
All right, so that's, I believe, everyone that we have online at the moment. We may be able to pick some people up as we move along, but let's go back to that original order and just start right with the questions. So I think, Takunda, you're up first. Did you have a question for Mr. Elumelu?
Indeed. Mr. Elumelu, so I've been working with a good number of startups, people who have been trying to create businesses. And the first challenge that most people talk about is the fact that they cannot access funding and things like that. Whereas it has been in my experience that funding is not the fundamental thing that startups require. People need to be able to validate their concept and be able to create some sort of proof of concept that this product actually works. So in your experience, apart from this, overhyped funding issue, what is the real challenge that young entrepreneurs are facing, and how can they address that with the resources that they have without having to scour around to look for funding?
No, I think it's a very good point you made. My foundation has an institute. It's called the Africa Capitalism Institute. Just this morning, we were discussing because they did a study and they came up with the fact that the single most important requirement for startup is capital. And I was debating with them this one. I said, "Are you sure it's capital?" But to me, there are other more constraining factors beyond capital. So it's interesting that you and I will both share the same perspective. Indeed, capital is important, but I don't think capital is a necessary but not a subject condition for success in entrepreneurship. I believe that the right environment is extremely important for entrepreneurs to do. And so, unfortunately, this is not within the control of entrepreneurs. Capital is even fairly more controlled within their means. I think that training is important. I think that mentoring is extremely important. I think that even the soft issues like the 1,000 to million entrepreneurs, we're teaching them what we call the TOE business way. We're teaching them certain things, certain values about like hard work, like discipline. If whatever little money you have, you find that you need to use it judiciously for the purpose intended, and make sure you keep good financial records, and not just spend. Don't mix your personal money with business money. Know that you owe yourself. Know that you're accountable to either yourself or to people who work with you. So there are a lot of these seemingly little factors that are as important, if not even more important than capital. So I think that for business, it depends on the sector one is in. You know, you need to. There are basic universal rules that apply to everyone, irrespective of your sector. You need to be hardworking, you need to be disciplined, you need to stay focused, you need to think long term, you need to defer immediate short-term benefits of consumption for the future. I think if you do all of these, businesses will certainly do well. So that whenever you get capital or additional capital, you'll be able to utilize this capital in a more effective manner. I don't know if this answer is able to address your questions. Is it okay? Okay.
Yes. Indeed, it does address the question that I'd asked, and I believe that what you've said is true, and that is what, as young entrepreneurs, we need to inculcate in the way that we're building our businesses. Thank you very much, Mr. Elumelu.
Thank you, Tekende.
Yeah, and I want to say thank you as well to Kunda, because we hear that question a lot in the Yali network, and so I'm very glad to get that one right out front. I understand that financing and funding are very important, but sometimes people get hung up on them and then they don't move ahead. So good that we can address that early. I wanted to also, if Peju is with us, I wanted to give her a chance to ask a question because she's responsible for bringing us all together here today.
Hello, Peju.
Are without doubt a very successful serial entrepreneur. We know a lot of your ventures in Nigeria, and each one of your ventures, starting from UBA, Hairs Holding, the TIP, Tony Elumelu Foundation, they've all been able to reach their peak and they've all been successful. But we, of course, know that every entrepreneur has a failure story. So I would like to know if you have that kind of story too, and I would like you to share it with us and the lessons you learned from that story. And then my second rolled-in question would be, how have you been able to get the right people? Because I know that without the right people, all these your serial ventures would not have been successful. So share with us your tips in getting the right people for our own ventures too.
Even the questions you entrepreneurs, upcoming African entrepreneurs are asking are very germane, and they tell me that you might do better than us in future. Taking this question and yours, I think failure is clearly part of entrepreneurship, and what I say to people is let's not either celebrate failure or die with failure. You know, you fail, you pick up and make progress. But I'll come back to that. Let me say that for me, yes, every day we make tons of decisions, and out of the decisions, some go well, some don't go well. Even a decision to hire someone might turn out positive or negative. So there are decisions we make every day. Some of them turn out well, some don't. But the key thing is we need to, as business leaders, as entrepreneurs, learn from every mistake we have made and make sure we do not repeat those mistakes again. Now, there are tons, you know, for every 10 or 10 successful investments that we have made, we've maybe made about 3 or 4 failed investments. What's important is, again, as I said, that we learn from those failed mistakes so that as we make more investment decisions, we don't repeat them. Even in banking, you grant loans, some loans go well, some don't go well. So at the end of the day, you need to make sure that you learn from the bad loans you give out. You do what Americans do, American military will learn from them, after action review, so that you do not repeat those mistakes. But critical thing here is ability to make sure that you do not repeat the mistakes that you have made. Because there are some mistakes that are extremely grievous or extremely weighty that can even affect the business. So we need to also try to fine-tune the science of making investment or making decisions in business. You don't just, you have to have a style to making decisions. You know, some like in my organization, we have like investment committee that I'm not part of. So investment committee, they analyze the investment proposals, they make sure they do this dispassionately, and when they have come up with a position, I will say yes, I concur, depending on the investment level, or I don't concur. Some they can have even more, some they come up to my level. So the discipline, the science and discipline of ensuring the right decision is made, and decision to a large extent is as important as the outcome of the decision that you make. So now the experience I have in this is that we need to make sure that we have the right people, because people help you to make decisions. It's not machines that make decisions for you. 2, that you as a leader, you create the right environment and enable people who work with you, express their views in a manner that they do not think they are saying what you like to hear, or in a manner that make them, they should be free to talk objectively. And it's the way we react to suggestions they make that would either encourage them to make more objective suggestions or make them to vote back. On the issue of and then how you get the right people, which is the first question you asked. The way to get the right people is again to be first you need to define what we want to achieve or what the purpose of our business is. Then we need to look for people who buy into the product. But remember that you hardly find ready-made people. You hardly find ready-made people. So you need to take people who have certain traits, and then you train them. You need to train them, and there are many ways of training people. You can put people in classroom and train them. You can get consultants to train them. You can train people on the job. They watch how you do things. You correct them. You correct them. You encourage them. Over time, they begin to see things the way you see things. But what is important in the model is alignment. Alignment. The people who work with you, when you bring them in, then you must make sure that they are aligned progressively with the culture, with the vision that you have. Them or sharing your vision. If you have people sharing your vision, chances are you will succeed. But it's difficult to tell who share from your vision from outside, who share your vision from outside. So you just look at basic things that these individuals have possessed, skills that they possess, bring them on board, train them, often doing a college should be okay. However, when you see that as he or she becomes a net prospect that I made the other ones. So those are the learning points. But leaders must also ensure that I don't know. It's a triple barrier question that you asked. I don't know if I've tried to answer some of it.
All right. Thank you, Peju. And I believe we now have another of our guests online, Helena. Can you hear me, Helena? And if you can you briefly introduce yourself? And then if you have a question for Mr. Elumelu.
Yes, thank you, Paul. My name is Helena Fogio. I am an architect based in Accra, Ghana. I established Epignotex Design and Build an architectural company to actually be involved in the development of more sustainable buildings and helping shape the built environment in a more sustainable and meaningful and beautiful way. I'm glad to be on this platform, the same platform with you, Mr. Tony Elumelu. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
My question to you is about the philosophy of
Afri-capitalism.
Yeah, Afri-capitalism. Yes. Reading about it, that's a really commendable initiative, and I believe if we have more of such entrepreneurs, we can say that Africa, we are actually going somewhere very fast. And what I understand from concept is that how entrepreneurs could help raise the economic wealth level of Africa. And by extension, what I would say is, what you're trying to say is how civil society would, each and every one of us at different levels.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello, am I?
Yes,
I can hear you.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, okay. Yes.
Hello,
Sorry.
I can hear you. Please, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. What did you say about Afri-capitalism? Sorry, you were trying to talk about wealth. Yes, I head up to that one.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to explain my understanding of your concept of Afri-capitalism.
Yes.
Whereby you, yes, please. What, if from my understanding, what you are saying is how entrepreneurs from Africa raise the economic levels of the all entrepreneurs can get involved.
Okay, I think Helena's connection is a little spotty. Let me see if I can do this justice for you, Helena. I think you're addressing Mr. Elumelu's concept of Afro-capitalism and asking how an individual entrepreneur can participate in that or kind of focus their work in that direction. I hope that's a fair characterization. Can you address that, Mr. Elumelu?
Okay, yes. I think the concept of Afri-capitalism is, Helena, first, good that you're following up with this interesting philosophy. It's born out of my private sector engagement and discovering through my own investments and the experience in private sector that the private sector indeed in Africa have a role to play in the development of the continent. You know, for a long time we all thought our development can only come from government, but indeed we at the private sector have a role to play. And it starts from the kind of given investments we make, investing long term in key sectors that can help us transform the continent. Take an investment in power, for instance. When you invest in power, you make economic profit, but because a long-term investment and strategic one, you make economic profit at the same time, you have to impact society, you have to improve or increase access to electricity, and access to electricity helps everyone in the community to in different ways. It helps even entrepreneurs to succeed. It reduces our cost of doing business as a business. So we've seen in so many sectors that the private sector should begin to play a role in the ultimate development of our continent in a much more sustainable manner. It's also hinged on the fact that no one but us can develop Africa, and that we should stop expecting that the development of our continent will come on our side. We need to play a significant role in this. Also, you see African successful business leaders save their wealth offshore and do not invest locally. So if you do not invest locally, why would you expect others to come and invest on the continent or in your country? So we need to show example. We need to lead the way. We need to invest in the economy so that others will be encouraged to also join us and invest in the economy. So yes, how can individuals play a role here? It's all about individuals, it's all about the private sector, all of us playing our own role, investing locally, playing our own role in participating in key sectors that can help to develop our continent. So, Elena, you, as an architect, if I heard your introduction well, you also are playing or could be playing a role in the development of the continent. So let's stop waiting for government, or we need our government to help us create the enabling environment that will lead to the development of our continent. If they create an enabling environment and we make the right investment and we attract the right investments, then we'll work together to develop the continent. Thank you.
All right. I think I heard from Helena that I did a reasonable job of summarizing her question, and thank you so much for that answer. I guess it sort of just comes down to the basic concept of capitalism in that each individual pursuing their own interests will collectively help the society.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where
that's it, Paul. That's it, Paul. Thanks. That's it.
All right, and now let's go to Abdi. If you're still on the line with us, can you ask your question?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I'm very much interested on agriculture and on smallholders, especially what you are doing with Tanga farms in Tanzania. I believe that such kind of investments would uplift many from poverty. So I hope this will impact around 100,000 farmers in the future, and I would like to know what is your future plan to expand that one and scale up to other farmers in Africa, let it be in other part of Africa. And I really appreciate what you are doing in so many investments, but this kind of investment would uplift so many people out of poverty, especially agriculture being the largest employer.
Exactly.
What is it?
Exactly. No, you just said it. Agriculture is the largest employer of labor in Africa, and in fact, the mainstay of most of our economies in Africa is in the area of agriculture. So, an investment in agriculture in Africa is a worthwhile investment, a world investment, and one that helps to uplift or reduce the poverty level on the continent. That is why we invested in Matanga Farm, and that is also beyond Matanga Farm. That's also why. Commodity exchange that will help price discovery for farmers, that will help us to monetize their produce, create a significant economic value for them. But more importantly, it helps through the trust receipts, help them to raise more money to even do more. So investment in agriculture is one that is close to my heart as an African private sector, as an investor, and I like to see others, play their own part in helping to uplift this sector. I'm happy that you are into agriculture, and again, like we're discussing before about Africa, and it's about everyone playing this role towards making the system work better, towards creating developing Africa. All of us should team up, should work together to make this happen. The Matanga experience is good, for us, it's not so much the money we make from it, than the support to this to the farmers in this community and helping to improve the potato seedling and helping to create more wealth for them. And that's exactly what we're doing through the commodity exchange, which we intend to roll out in other African countries too.
Very good, thank you. You know, it's interesting, and thank you for bringing that up, Abdi, because Mr. Elumelu, within the Yali network, I very often hear from people that there are lots of Africans interested in agriculture, but they have difficulty getting young people interested in participating. I guess perhaps young people don't find that to be an attractive field. Have you seen that, and what would you suggest for people who want to encourage young people to participate in agriculture in Africa?
Even the recent exercise we conducted, the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program, we got 20,000 applications from across Africa, 52 African countries. Majority of these applications, in fact, the number one sector that people applied for was agriculture. In fact, I think if my statistic or my people can make the statistics available to you, I think almost over 400 of the 1,000 people we selected represented or were in the area of agriculture. I think it was agriculture, education, science and technology, and fashion. Agriculture was very high. So I see a new interest by upcoming African entrepreneurs in the area of agriculture. The challenge prior to this time has been, what the ecosystem of a sustainable agricultural practice. But I think there's been gradual improvement in that area on the continent. So young Africans are coming to that space. About Saturday, I interacted with one guy who is into poultry farming. So a lot of young Africans are showing interest in agriculture. The problem has been that financing for the agricultural space is not the sector has not been forthcoming. But through some of the initiatives we're putting in place now, like the Tony Elumelu program and other similar programs, I think the encouragement in that space is coming. And people are beginning to respond positively. People are beginning to see agriculture as a business and not as a social service, which is very, very important. So the mentality is changing, and we need that positive mentality of perceiving agriculture as business for that sector to take on.
Very good, thank you. And it's encouraging to hear that you had that kind of interest within your program. But it is about business, and there's plenty of money to be made in agriculture too. Now we'd like to go to Lulu for her question. Are you ready?
Yes, I am. Mr. Elumelu, you famously said only entrepreneurship can create opportunity when nothing else seemingly exists. And I truly agree with this statement, but I also think it gives rise to another point. I have a lot of young people who I speak to, and a lot of them believe that entrepreneurship is only for certain people, special people with certain skills. And how can we get rid of this myth and help people understand that entrepreneurship starts with believing in yourself and your ideas?
I think you just said it all. It's about believing yourself, believing your ideas, and you don't even have to attend a formal education for you to be an entrepreneur. We have stories of people who didn't go to school and are very successful in the entrepreneurship sphere. What we're doing, we've done a few things, trying to encourage research and case studies to be written, about entrepreneurship, especially entrepreneurship in Africa, is one way of creating the right awareness and information. Then this era of social media, we need to also keep encouraging people, not just people who feel that, but also women to come into the space of entrepreneurship. When we advertised for the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program, we saw that many females did not apply initially. We had to create massive buzz and awareness, publicity, to be able to get more to come into that space. Finally, we got 30%, about 30% of the 1,000 were females. So we need to keep creating the awareness about this in our continent. And we need also to through our schools, we need to begin to talk about entrepreneurship, not just in university but even secondary schools. We need to engage at vocational training centers, have more, and also let people know that any of them can become an entrepreneur. The entrepreneurs are not born, so they are not born. Anyone can be created. Just put your ideas and believe in your ideas, and let the ecosystem of the opportunities that will enable your ideas to do well. Provide that. That is why our program is the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program. Just $10,000 we give, but we know this $10,000 can change lives in significant ways. So people should not feel that way. Do they feel that way now? Yes. Do we have some females not as excited about entrepreneurship as men are? Yes, but we need to encourage them deliberately. It's for you, for myself, for every one of us to play a role in making this happen. So let's keep preaching. Let's keep engaging with it. Let's keep creating the excitement about it, and let them see the value in entrepreneurship.
All right, thank you for that. I notice as I travel around Africa, I see many examples of entrepreneurship. I see lots of people buying and selling and trading and doing lots of business. I wonder if maybe it's a question of the ability to scale that maybe that's an aspect that needs more emphasis, because there's lots of people doing lots of things to make a living every day, but I don't know that they're all focused on scaling it into a larger enterprise.
I think scale comes from developing. First is these people, if they were trained and mentored, they will move to the next level. So that is why the first point that was made today, that entrepreneurship is not all about capital, is very important. Because those who are already engaged in the kind of trade and artisanship we talked about, I don't even know how to scale up, but they had good training, good handholding, good mentoring, they'll do very well. Africa is really full of people who have ideas and who would like to succeed and do more, but they need to be encouraged, they need to be trained, they need to be molded, they need to be mentored, and I guess as we have more successful entrepreneurs in our communities, they will pull others up. They will also encourage others. When you see someone next door succeeding as an entrepreneur, you might also ask yourself, shouldn't I also go the way of that person? So I think success as a world bringing more successes, and I think that is going to happen on our continent.
Very good, thank you. That sort of leads into, we've got a question from one of our online viewers, from Tom Chris in Ghana, who's asking, and I'll just read what he wrote. Many think that Africa has a lot to do with the next economic revolution, but it doesn't seem so as yet. What do you think of that? And I'll just add a little bit to that. I read some things where people say that Africa is the boom continent and it's where everything is going to happen, and then you see some naysayers who say, well, it's not really ready yet. Those are false statistics and things. Where do you land on that?
I think there are a lot of opportunities in Africa, but realistically speaking, we do have a certain institutional challenges also. So while the opportunity exists, these institutional challenges also do exist. And what's the way forward? The way forward is for us to press our governments to see what they can do to uproot some of these challenges, like regulatory challenges and bottlenecks. Those can easily be dismantled. And also the free movement of goods and people within the countries of Africa, intra-Africa. We need to uproot some of those so that the full potential of our continent can actually be felt even from within. We need to do quite a bit of it. We have the schools, healthcare system. We need to improve healthcare. The continent cannot develop if we don't have a good manpower. We need to have our health system improved. We can do well as a continent if our healthcare delivery system is not improved. We saw the Ebola impact recently in some parts of Africa. For us, the opportunities in this continent is very, very high. And some of us have benefited from these opportunities, and as we have more more entrepreneurs come up in Africa, they will also do more. Investors will come to the continent to invest in the continent as they see or find out that the ease of doing business is improving. And that's what we are calling on most African leaders. We need to keep up what they're doing when failures have found that there's improvement, significant improvement in recent times. We need to keep turning Africa into safe investment, or not just conducive investment continent, so that more investors can come. And these are things that will help to realize what people have been saying about Africa being the next frontier for prosperity in investment. So this can happen, the opportunities are there, can happen, but we all have a bit of work to do in making this come true.
All right, thank you very much. We have another question from Twitter from Judy in Kenya, who is asking, what is it that drives you? You obviously have been successful, and you could quit, you could just relax, but you don't. You're still working, you're still doing things. What is it that makes you get up every day? What is your vision for Africa that you're pursuing?
I'm having a good laugh here. No, basically, we have my economic motivation. I also have my social motivation. So I believe, consistent with the philosophy of African capitalism, that the private sector in Africa must play a role in developing Africa. I see myself as part of the private sector in Africa. I have a key role to play in helping to develop the continent. If you look at power, for instance, the power deficit in Africa is high, and our continent cannot really do well or develop if it remains this way. And I've read about America and other developed parts of the world, the role the private sector play, bringing this country, uplifting this countries. We all, including Tony Elumelu, have a role to play in doing this for our continent. Until we achieve this, we can't go.
All right, I think the sound cut out just a bit at the end there, but I think you had completed your thought. So let me go back to our panelists again. Is Takunda still with us? He may have dropped off. All right, so then is Peju there? Can you do you have a follow-up question, Peju?
Follow-up question: what drives Mr. Elumelu?
Well, or just your own question next.
Okay, yeah, so really it's a nice question to hear about what drives him, but he said something about the fact that what drives him essentially is the belief that private sector in Africa has a role to play in the development of the continent. But I realize that Mr. Elumelu is just one person. I would like to know steps that Mr. Elumelu is taking to get other private sector practitioners on board with him, so that together they can form like a coalition to take Africa to the next level.
All right, that is a good question. I think we've lost Mr. Elumelu for a moment. Oh, he's back, but I don't know if he had heard your question. Can you hear us?
To what I thought I heard. Are you there?
Yes, we're here. Did you hear Peju's question?
Paul?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I didn't hear everything Peju asked. I thought it was her voice, and I heard part of it. So let me try to answer. I think I heard a bit of what she was asking about how I can bring other African leaders together for us to jointly develop the continent. Peju, that's your question.
Yes, because you said the private sector.
Hello.
Hello. Because you had responded to the question of what drives you by saying that your belief in the fact that private sector is important and has a role to play in of Africa. So my question was basically, how do you get other private sector practitioners to join you in this vision that you have to take Africa to the next level?
No, I think. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Paul, I can hear you. I heard part of what Beju was saying. Can you guys hear me well now?
We hear you fine, and I think what you heard from Peju the first time was accurate. So if you can just address how to bring private sector people together to do the kind of development that you talk about through entrepreneurship, through Afro-capitalism.
Okay, so it's when I address at the bootcamp over the weekend, I talked about it that we should. One person alone cannot make this happen, even though we try in our own individual capacity. But we need to come together. We need all hands on deck. We have other endowed Africans, other leading African private sector people, all of us working together. I think I'm not alone, but we need to do more. We need to scale up. We need to improve the way we give. We need to embrace a sustainable giving approach like this type. We need to try to make people fishermen. We need to empower people in this manner that's sustainable, that creates self-reliance rather than giving of a handout and charity in the way that people keep coming back for more. That's what I'm saying. I think we should just reorientate and focus our give. I believe that will help us accelerate the development of our country. I have seen as an entrepreneur that entrepreneurs play a key role in developing the continent. In one of my businesses, I have over 20,000 employees. That to me is significant, and I have seen how investment in people, can make a significant difference on the continent. So what I hope to see through entrepreneurship, as Peju succeeds, I believe she hires more people in her business. That creates source of livelihood to the people she has hired. And that is better for these people than to be giving them handouts, to be dashing money to them. That is what I mean by the private sector entrepreneurship-led development. That is the kind of development we need on the continent. We need everyone. So for other successful Africans, instead of saving your money in foreign banks, bring your money to Africa, come and invest in Africa. If you don't want to invest directly as an entrepreneur, invest in Lulus on the continent so that they can help achieve their entrepreneurial sale and come. And by so doing, help to create more prosperity for everyone on the continent. That is what I mean when I say that the private sector has able to play in developing our continent. But did you hear me? Paul?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm not sure if Paige is still with us, but let's build on that a little bit. Abdi had sort of a follow-up question. Clearly, you yourself have made an investment, but Abdi wanted to follow up on that. Can you address your question, Abdi?
Okay. I don't know why Mr. Chairman has not visited Abdi today. Okay. My question will be: I see you invested a large in emerging,
Abdul, sorry, say that again.
I see you invested a large amount of money in. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Okay, Mr. Elumelu, can you hear me? Mr. Elumelu, can you hear me? This is Paul. No, can you hear anyone right now? I was going to rephrase Abdi's question if you can hear me.
Okay, I can hear you very well, Paul.
Okay, so I think what Abdi wanted to ask about was, clearly from your experience with the foundation and with other work, you've made an investment in entrepreneurship in young people. When do you expect to see some kind of return on that? Maybe not a direct financial return, but some sort of evidence that you've invested wisely.
No, Abdul, very good point. Because for every investment, you need to see performance. I want to see in 5 to 10 years time. I want to see greater successes recorded by these entrepreneurs. I want to see them grow their business. I want to see them grow from small one-man business to iconic national institutions. Indeed, I'm getting some encouraging feedback already. Some people who are closing deals, the networking opportunity has enabled them to expand their distribution network. Some are getting new ideas into solution problems that they had before, because all 1,000 of them have a common portal where they interact and they share ideas. So for me, success will come when I see these people begin to, if they had 2 employees before, see them hire hundreds of people, see them grow to bigger organizations, see them go to their companies to public, to the capital market to raise money or become PLCs, see them help to actually also begin to encourage other upcoming entrepreneurs on the continent. Then we will say that the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneur Program is succeeding. We're just planting the seeds at this point in time. We want them to succeed. We're going to stand by them. We're going to support them. We're going to keep mentoring them until they succeed.
All right. Very good. I want to go to another question from our viewers online. We've got a question from Nelson in Uganda. He asks, can young people in a poor setting succeed with their creative genius? And he points out the fact that there's a lot of attention on Nairobi, on Accra, on Johannesburg, on Lagos, certainly. But what about the rest of the people, if I'm understanding his question correctly? And is genius enough?
Nelson, opportunity. If you have creative ideas anywhere in Africa, you can succeed. The Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program, we got, I think, almost 10 people from Uganda that qualified and as beneficiaries of the program. So it doesn't matter where you are. Yes, some communities might predispose you to better success chances than others, but if you have ideas, you can succeed anywhere. Some of us, some people succeed in Nigeria, even in more difficult operating environment and terrain. So you can succeed in Uganda. It goes back to one of the points one of our speakers talked about before. Don't be deterred. Don't give up based on that. And in fact, you live in an era, an interconnected world today, where social media can reach anyone, anywhere. So Uganda, you can succeed there if you have ideas. And I don't know if you applied to the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneur Program. If you didn't apply, we're going to advertise again for the second cohort, second batch in December. Please apply. If you have a good business, we'll look at it. And I believe others are doing the same thing too across the continent to support entrepreneurs like you.
All right, very good. I often see lots of exciting things coming out of Uganda, so I think there's certainly opportunity there. Let's go back to our panel. Takunda, now you're back with us. Can you hear us, and did you have another question?
Hello?
Hello.
Yes. I had a small question to follow up on the issue of investment. Also, in my experience, I've come to notice that because the ecosystem, the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Africa is still quite young, most people focus on the idea, the market, or the vertical in which these people are operating. In the investments that you have made or that you're making, do you also consider the exit from these startups? Do you also make sure that the startups and the founders themselves have actually figured out how they're going to exit from these businesses? Because most of the focus has been on starting and scaling, but then scaling to what effect?
Like that. Well, let me say that I don't run a private equity firm. And I actually, the entrepreneurship program is to support people to succeed. Even if the success, what I want to see in them, that they are doing well and that they are helping to create employment, that they are helping to improve the economic activities of their respective communities, and they are helping to address some social challenges. That is for me the return that I actually expect. This so first is $10,000. The $4,000 is just grant. no paper, just the second $5,000. We put it as either loan or equity, just so that it can instill some discipline in these entrepreneurs to know that they have to pay back, so they know that they need to invest and manage the money wisely. But the real intent is to enable these people to succeed. It's actually a support for people, African entrepreneurs, to succeed. And what I've always preached is that people should invest long term. So private equity firms look at from day one, they're thinking of exit. You know, at times this exit can create problem for entrepreneurs who are still trying to find their feet. So I like to, we invest, we give people support, lifelong support, and let them just do well and succeed. That to us is more important. Thanks.
So more of the Warren Buffett approach than the Silicon Valley approach to investment.
Yeah, we're long-term investors. We go long-term, yes. We're long-term. We partner with you. We support you. We mentor you. We train you. We help you to succeed. And that's what we need on the continent.
Very good. And I think, Lulu, you had a question as well now?
Yes, Mr. Elumelu, I'm a creative, so I come from the entertainment and media industry. And one of the hardest things to do for me was finding, moving from being self-employed to creating a partnership that would be able to start the business. And I know a lot of
Lulu, I can't hear you again.
young people struggle with that. What pointers can you give to
Lulu, I lost you, please. Can you lost the key part of your question? What's the
might
question,
not
Lulu?
have the finance, but have the know-how. Like in my case, I had the talent and they need to go partnerships. But what would your advice be and pointers to young people that are looking to partner?
Oops, Lulu is breaking up there a little bit, so I guess we lost her. We could try and come back to her, though. I apologize for that, Lulu. We'll keep that question in mind.
Did you get the question, Paul? Paul, did you get the question?
I did not get the whole thing because it was kind of breaking up, but we'll come back to that.
All right. Or she can email it.
Okay, we do have a question from Precious, who, if I understand correctly, was part of your boot camp. She writes, as a man who has built business empires, can you tell us how we can succeed in people management to assure that the people, the employees, I gather, can catch and run with your vision? I think you talked about this a little bit earlier, but if you could elaborate.
Paul?
Yes, I'm here. Okay, I don't know if you all can hear me. Mr. Elumelu, are you back? Can you hear me, sir? All right. Hello, Mr. Elumelu, can you hear me? Lulu, can you, are you still with us? Maybe you could describe your question and then we can relate it when we get the connection back. All right. Mr. Elumelu, can you hear me? Okay, yes. Can you hear me? I caught you
Well,
for
I
just
can hear you now, yeah.
Okay, I have Lulu's question. She typed it for us. So let me try
Okay.
this.
Okay.
She says, I know you're a chief proponent of sustainable energy in Africa. What do you think is the problem of extensive use of, oh, I'm sorry, this is Helena's question. I didn't see Lulu's, maybe we'll get that in a moment. But let me ask Helena's question too, because we have some connection issues. So she says, I know you're a chief proponent of sustainable energy in Africa. What do you think is the problem of extensive use of solar on the continent? It is estimated that solar would be 85% less than the grid in the next 5 years. I think she means less in cost. Is that solar or other renewables, is that an area that you invest in or wish to invest in?
Yes, it's an area for me. The level of energy deficit in Africa is huge. We need a combination therapy. We need a combination approach to solving this. Solar, thermal, hydro, all of this put together. We should deploy all means to improve the access to electricity in Africa. It's very important. Personally, I've invested in thermal plant. We have a thermal plant that generates about 700 megawatts of electricity daily, but we want to do more. And yes, solar is one of the areas we are focusing on. We need to make it work on the continent. We need everyone, all hands on deck, private sector, government working together to improve access to electricity on the continent. One of the challenges we have had is that regulatory bottlenecks and hurdles have impeded the enthusiasm and interest in power on the continent. We are calling on government, we are calling on leaders to make sure that they expedite the authorization process that people who are interested in generating electricity can help produce this for the continent. Now, so yes, there's a question asked by someone, one of the Tony Elumelu entrepreneurs. It's on about how do you motivate staff, how do you assemble the right staff to run a business. And if you have a question, can we read it so I can respond to that?
I think that question was from Precious, and I think what she was asking was more about how you motivate people, how you find the people. I think you talked earlier about if having people who share your vision. You don't know that when you've hired them, you only know that after a while. How do you imbue them with that vision? How do you translate that vision to them and then understand that they catch it?
I think it's from training, and you also mentor your staff, from training, from mentoring, from motivating them, for walking your talk as a leader, saying things that are of importance to the organization and encouraging those things, rewarding people who exhibit the attributes that you expect of people who work with you, and also sanctioning people who do not exhibit those attributes. People learn more from what you do than what you say. So I think it's a clear way. Leaders must see themselves as the high priests of the organizations, and they must keep preaching to people who work with them. They must never give up. They must keep preaching, and they must align interests in the organization. And most importantly, they must also ensure that they measure things that are important to them. If you don't measure what is important to you, nothing can be done. But if you measure and reward people appropriately, and sanction people also, people will do the right thing. Most people will do the right thing. Not, you can never get 100%. But when you don't get 100%, try to retrain. And if it doesn't work, then you shake hands with it. So that's what I do, and that's what. And
All right, I think I lost your sound a little. Can you? All right, Mr. Elumelu, can you hear me? I've lost your sound, but I hope others can hear you. Well, let's work on getting that audio back. Takunda, did you have something that you wanted to add to the chairman's comments about involving the private sector?
Yes, indeed. So it has also been through my experience where people come to me and say, TK, how do we work in an environment where the private sector, isn't very interested in working in startups, because startups, by our definition, serve to disrupt, their business models, and where government is, in some cases, more concerned with bigger issues. And basically, what I've come to realize, and this is what I always share with entrepreneurs, is that when you begin to try and engage with the private sector, do not go to these people as competitors. You always need to try and find and figure out a way in which your innovation, as disruptive as it might be, a way in which that can fit into their existing value chain. It is only in doing so that you will get them to actually want to buy in and work with you and collaborate. Because, and I've seen this across a good number of ecosystems in Zimbabwe, in sub-Saharan Africa, even up into West Africa. Just as somebody goes to a large corporate, and then 2 or 3 months down the line, they find that they have replicated the what the startup was trying to do. Because the mechanism that we need to find to understand is that as startups, we are small enough, we're lean enough to be able to quickly build something, to pivot, to change into a different vertical and things like that. Whereas the private sector, you see, because they're now huge organizations, they cannot move as fast. They, however, have the resources, they have the manpower, they have everything that they would need to either try and replicate or build something similar. And so we need to find this common ground where the agility of startups intersects with the resources that the private sector has. And to do that, we as startups need to be more cooperative and move away from this hero role of trying to disrupt and change business models. I think that is the way that we can begin to work with those existing in the sectors themselves.
That's very good, Takunda. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know that we have the chairman back, but maybe we can just chat a little bit amongst ourselves. Peju, did you have anything you wanted to add to that? Well, maybe she's no longer with us either. It sounds as though...
I'm actually here, Paul.
There you are. There you are. Okay. What do you think about that notion of how we involve? Well, I think when Takunda, are you talking about the corporate sector, not just the private sector, as opposed to government?
Yes.
Yes.
The
Okay.
corporate sector,
right.
yeah.
Right. What's your take on that, Peju?
Okay, so I'm trying to let Takunda's opinion really sink in, and I'm trying to understand it fully, because it seemed to me like his opinion is trying to put a strain and a leash on the entrepreneur who has these disruptive ideas. That I think that from my understanding, he's trying to suggest that the entrepreneur should cage it so that it will be able to get the support of the private sector. Am I right? No, I'm trying to understand it fully, Takunda.
Not to cave in, because that disrupts, that defeats the whole purpose. We'll get to it.
Yeah.
But to try and find a way in which we can fit into their value proposition. So I'll give you an example.
By fitting into their value proposition, do we need to bend on our part?
Not to bend per se. Let me try and explain by giving an example. Right.
Okay.
So we developed technology that makes wireless networks 10 times more efficient, right? And whereas your ISPs, your internet companies, they make money from using so much data. The more the data you use, the more the money they make. And so when we first got to market, we were excited. We were liberating the internet, right? But these large-scale ISPs and companies weren't happy with that. And so they replicated part of our model. They did things that as startups were all afraid of. And so we went back and we said, okay, let's look at what they're trying to do. The problem is their networks are already congested. So how about we repackage the same technology that we've built, but then instead of saying we're here to kill you and to disrupt you, we then say, look, we've created something that makes your business even more scalable and more sustainable. The response that we then got from there now was more, fine, let's work together, because this helps our business grow and we as a startup also grow in itself. So it's not that we caved into what they wanted. It was more about us finding a way to fit into the problems that they themselves are having, as opposed to treating them as a competitor. They become a client.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I kind of agree with that, because instead of having a competitor, now you have an ally, to whatever it is you are doing, and then they become a customer. But I know that with the example you have given, it may not always work like that in every field and sector. So it may not be like a general rule that is set. There will definitely be exceptions to this situation.
Very, very true. Very true.
All right, Mr. Elumelu, are you with us again? Can you hear us?
Yes, Paul, I'm back. I can hear you.
Okay. I don't know if you heard any of that conversation we were just having, but I'd like to have you address it if you could. It was sort of an interplay between Takunda and Peju about the issue of how to involve and relate to larger businesses. So you're an entrepreneur, you're a startup, you're small, you're agile, and there are these large businesses which in a sense are almost like government. They're big entities that you might want to do business with, but they have their own demands. What would you say an entrepreneur should do to address that situation? You want the big customer, but you don't necessarily know how to approach them or want to change your business model? Or how should an entrepreneur approach that?
Let me understand the question. The question is you're a small business, you want to do business with a big company, corporation, you don't know how to approach them. How should you approach them? Is that the question?
Sure, yes.
I think if you have a product that a big business that they need, you have to approach them. In sales, there are various marketing or sales strategies that you can deploy. You have to emphasize, you have to approach demand, what's called MAN, demand with the authority and need. If you meet demand with the authority and need, and you pitch your sales at that level, the man he has the need and he has the authority, so it's easier for him to close the deal. And also, you have to make it explicit. There are times you have implicit and explicit needs. Someone might not know that what you are offering will bring value to him. Not you make it explicit to that person that this thing I'm offering can reduce your cost of doing business cost of operation by this amount, or this thing I'm offering can enhance your sales revenue by this amount. Then there's no man with authority and need that cannot do business with you. I think it's even easier for smaller businesses to make a case to big businesses, but the right thing is to be able to identify the key person that you need to talk to, and it's called breaking the screen. You need to find out to break the screen to get to the man with the authority and need. Translate value into an explicit value to the person or the organization. They will do business with you. They will do business with you. So if I understood the question, then that's what I would say.
That's thank you for that. That's much of what the conversation was going on while you were away. We were talking about how to bring value to that equation, and that's not always apparent to everyone. I wonder, it sort of raises an interesting point too. So, if I'm a small business person, I want the big customer. I want to work with a corporation or with government or something like that. But that can be a difficult thing to do. What are some of the other obstacles that you see for an entrepreneur right now in Africa, and maybe some tips on how they can work around those?
I think in Africa or in businesses generally, when you have big corporations, they already have their vendors. They already have people they're used to working with. They understand their style, their approach, and some of these vendors understand their goals, their strategies. So it's at times difficult to unseat these vendors. But a key way there are many ways you can do this. Getting access to the right man, pitching you must be able to offer what has a higher value to the corporation. It's all about value. If you have a value proposition that is higher, chances are you make the breakthrough. And some corporations, like some of my business, I have a delivery policy to support upcoming vendors, because I look back about my own life and my entrepreneurial journey that if I was not given the opportunity when I didn't have any pedigree or any strong CV, so to speak, I wouldn't be where I am today. So for me, to me, it's like a moral or a personal self-obligation I owe to these people. But some is all about hard decisions, and then for some people you must sell superior value to them. So I think that is one thing, dislodging deep rooted vendors who have been doing business with some of these multinationals or some of these large corporations can be a difficult one. But at times you can look at also, you propose higher value to them, let them know how the technology, whatever you're offering, will bring better value, superior value to them. You see also, because you're a small business, your cost of operation is lower than the big vendors. Say your cost of operation is lower than the big vendors' cost of operation. Can you share value with the big corporations? So if your cost of manufacturing, producing a certain good or service is cheaper than a vendor who has a lot of overhead, try and bring down your own pricing. So long as you're not making a loss, to break in. It's a market penetration strategy. When you penetrate, they can start picking it up from there. So that you need to consider. Third thing to consider is flexibility. The good thing, most corporations, and I like this also, most corporations like organization or vendors that are flexible. I need someone to deliver document for the brochure for the boot camp to us on Thursday night or Friday night. I also want to work through the night to do this for me. And so established vendors might start telling you they can't do that, they have to do it on Monday. So if you're flexible, nimble, you're able to meet a need, satisfy a need, then you can, it's a way of breaking it, and then progressively you build up. So I think it can be indeed challenging, but if you're nimble, flexible, have a superior product that brings a superior value to your ultimate clients, there's opportunity for you. Another challenge I see on the continent is infrastructure. We do have infrastructural challenges. Then you need to see how you locate your business, depending on the business you're operating, how you locate your business. That takes cognizance of some of the infrastructural challenges that we have, and see how, and yeah, so you need to think of how to locate your business. These are some of the obstacles I know, but the people who play in that sector will know better the obstacles. So if they read the obstacles, I can give them ideas how to overcome some of them. I know just some of these that I've mentioned. I hope that is helpful, Paul.
Okay, well, thank you for that. You know, and I just want to spin off of that a bit too, and get to Lulu's question. We could not get her back online, but she texted us the question. So what she wants to know, and this sort of relates to that issue of dealing with a corporation, in a similar fashion, what advice would you give to an entrepreneur who's courting investors? Because that can be a very delicate relationship. You want some investment money, but you don't want to give away too much equity, and you've got to worry about other terms. What would you suggest to someone who's perhaps on the verge of being ready for some investment injection? What should they know? How should they deal with those investors?
Okay, a couple of points here. First is, I believe that owning 5% of a successful business is better than owning 100% of a failing or failed business. So entrepreneurs should know this. Number two is, at times, let's not get too sentimental about our businesses or ideas. Let's think about the success of our ideas and our businesses. And so let's open up. However, we should not make any compromises. It's always good to make sure that there's goal alignment. At times, you bring in big investors into your business, And these big investors could be like private equity firms who want to exit in year 4, year 5. And meanwhile, from the business, maybe year 4, year 5 is when you actually, you're still proving, or the business are not taken up fully. And they might invest or push you to think of investment approaches that might dilute your focus. So you need to think about that. You also need to make sure that you have investors who are medium to long-term orientated than people who have short-term orientation. Because in most of these entrepreneurial initiatives, ideas, the real value comes in the medium to long term. Look at the case of Apple. Look at the case of Microsoft. So we need to, I support that we should open up our businesses to others, but we need to make sure that we choose the right partners, that we choose people who have the same goal alignment as us, so that we don't run into problems and find some of the problems kill the businesses. So that would be my advice, that one, do not close yourself. Let yourself open up a bit and let others come in so that you get the capital and even beyond capital expertise that you need to take your business to the next level. But please ensure that it's not all about money or expertise. That these people who are coming to your business, they share your aspirations for the business. Because if there's no alignment at that level, that business will likely not survive. Lulu, I hope we're able to address some of your points, your questions. Paul.
Yeah, I don't think she's with us still. Let me pivot a little bit away from. We were into some sort of technical business advice. We have a question online from James from Nigeria, who wants to talk about leadership. He says, "What is one characteristic that you believe every leader should possess?"
I don't know if I can say only one. Let me say 3. Let me say 1, a leader should be visionary. 2, have the ability to execute, because ideas and vision without execution is nothing. And 3, hard work, sacrifice, discipline, and integrity. For us in our organization, our core value is called HEIRS and S. And H is for hard work, E is for emotional intelligence, I is for integrity, R is for resilience, and S is for synergy. So for me, I call it soft issues that you need to get the system. You need to be hardworking, disciplined, high level of integrity, very important. Then, of course, a leader must have vision. Vision tells you the purpose, where you are headed. You must be able to execute, to translate that vision to action. Very, very important. That's where you need to execute. So a good leader must have these attributes of qualities to succeed.
Yes, I appreciate that, and I appreciate what you said before when you were talking about motivating employees, which I think also relates to leadership, in that you have to show them what you want, not just tell, but to act out that leadership as well. We have a question now from Abdi. Abdi, if your connection is good, you can ask this directly, or I can read what you've said. Can you try it, and we'll see if it works?
Okay. My question to Mr. Chairman is, I know doing business is not a charity, and we have to bring profit out of that. However, this made many investors to be based in cities and accessible zones only. As an economist, I think that challenge has already posed for the rural settings not to be developed, which means keeping them in the poverty. Where do you think other investors like me should focus on their future engagement in other rural settings?
Paul, can you please summarize? I didn't quite hear it was breaking.
Sure. I think what Abdi's getting at is he's talking about how many investors will go for investments that are in relatively easy places, big cities, near big cities, yet there's a lot of business opportunity and a lot of social good to come from investing in other areas. So how do you encourage investors or entice investors to look outside those easy places, to look at other countries, to look at rural areas, to look at other opportunities? Did you hear that? Mr. Elumelu, can you hear me? Hello, sir. Okay, I guess we lost you for a moment. Could you hear me, sir?
Paul.
Yes, can you hear me?
Paul, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Paul.
I am hearing you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Did you hear my response?
To Abdi's question, you wanted me to summarize, correct?
Did you hear my response?
Well, no, I did not. Did you ask me to summarize Abdi's question, correct?
Oh, yes. Go on, please.
Okay. So what he's asking is, he says you see a lot of investors that will invest in big cities and in relatively easy places to make an investment, yet there's a lot of social good as well as profit from investing in other areas, in rural areas, in poorer areas, in other countries perhaps. How do you encourage or entice investors to look at those other places?
If you look at our investment in Rwanda, the commoditation we invested in Rwanda, or the Matanga farm investment that we made, we didn't make those investments because of high profitability. We want them to be sustainable investments, so we want them to break even and be fairly profitable. But we know we can make better profit in other places. And we decided to do this because it has both economic and social profit. It has economic profit to us investors so that it's sustainable. But more importantly, the social profit is huge, the social return is huge. It helps farmers in so many ways that help to lift more people out of poverty. And these farmers can help train their children, do more things, afford Medicare for themselves rather than us giving them bills, hand bills to support their medical treatment. So it is gradually, I think we can legislate this, but as we all make some of these commitments and investments, I think, and the world celebrate them, others will begin to consider them also. We invested in Rwanda, and the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, has been wonderful in encouraging us to invest in Rwanda, in supporting our investment in that place. And we believe others are watching, both at the government level and also the private sector level, to make similar investment. So yes, we do see huge there are huge investment opportunities, and people still decide huge profit potential investment, but people still decide to balance investment that create sufficient social and economic profit to everyone. And that speaks to the heart of African capitalism.
All right, thank you very much. We're starting to run out of time, and I don't want to waste your valuable time. I know Takunda had a couple comments he wanted to address just toward the end. Takunda, are you with us?
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, so my very last comments were on this whole issue of collaboration, because it's something that has affected me in the business that we're trying to run. And I think at the very end, I believe that as startups ourselves, we should also try and find a way to collaborate as startups, because we are the people who are suffering together in the trenches trying to make business models work and products. And so if we are able to work together, we would find that we become a bigger force to the economy. We would find that, in my experience, you have 5 different people who come and pitch the exact same thing to you. And then when you say, why don't you try and work with this person? People become very sentimental and look at, untrusting eyes. And yet there's the very same people who complain that the corporates that they want to partner with are the ones that are stealing ideas. I believe that we need to try and structure these collaborations, and then in doing so, we become more sustainable. And I think even to an investor, we would look much more formidable that way. I would like to thank you for inviting me to this platform, and I'd like to thank Mr. Elumelu for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, sir, for the advice that you've given us, the pointers, and I look forward to meeting you at the Global Entrepreneurship Summit in Kenya.
Look forward to meeting you too. Good job. Well done. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to spin off of what Takunda said a little bit and ask you if you could very briefly address. So he talked about collaboration, and that is very valuable, especially when you're trying to scale. But also, could you talk about networking? Obviously, I work with the Yali network, and so I encourage as much of that as possible. But I'd like to hear your take on the idea of how useful it is for especially young entrepreneurs to really share ideas and help each other.
No, first is on collaboration. Young entrepreneurs must collaborate. But please, as they collaborate, they must not force themselves to collaborate. They need to collaborate, but the key denominator must be that they have commonality of interest, vision, aspirations, very, very important, so that they don't, in a bid to come together, collaborating, and create more problems for their businesses or ideas. But it is important. It's desirable for entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs, to collaborate. Even at my level, we also do see collaboration at that level, because you need to, at some point, you need to collaborate to scale up. So it's very, very important. But you should collaborate with people who share your business, the same aspirations as yourself. So that's my advice on that. On networking, it's extremely important. You don't know what you do for people when you create like the Yali network, the Mandela network, GS, and the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Network. These are great platforms that provide immense opportunities for people. Take the bootcamp that we just closed over the weekend. 1,000 Africans from different African countries, 51 African countries, in the same environment, discussing, sharing ideas. And you have people in agriculture space together talking about their common challenges and opportunities. You have people in tech area discussing similar things. You have people in fashion. They are having their conversation. People in education. So first, if they are able to solve their own problems among themselves, because what Mr. A has experienced in Uganda, it's possible that might provide solution to Mr. C in Rwanda or in Lagos. So it helps, and also it helps in terms of market penetration and distribution, greater opportunity for them, and it also helps because they have investors come around when you have some of this platform. Investors come around to talk to them, to see those they can support. And so networking opportunity is critical. In fact, it's very, very important. Very, very important. Highly fed or highly participant can actually open doors for the person. So similarly, I've seen already the tip to entrepreneurs. Someone wrote me today that she is a lot of appreciation how, because she's a beneficiary of the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program, that's opened doors for her. I will see they do benefit from this, and we must continue to support it. I'd like to commend the Yali, President Obama's Yali initiative for what they are doing to support African entrepreneurs.
All right, thank you for that. We'll do one last comment if we could. I just want to go to Paige and give her the last word because she brought us all together here, and she can address maybe some issues of social entrepreneurship.
Paul?
Yes, sir. I'm not sure that we still have Paige with us, but yes, sir. What did you want to say? Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, Paul. Can you hear me?
I can, but I'm not sure that the chairman can. Mr. Elumelu, can you hear us? Can you hear me, sir? Mr. Elumelu, can you hear me? Mr. Elumelu, can you hear us? Paige, why don't you go ahead, and then maybe if he comes back, we can summarize for him.
Okay, so I just wanted to thank Mr. Elumelu for being able to come on the Google Hangout and then have this event with us. And my last word to him would be this. Looking at most of his investments in Nigeria, at least the very well-known ones, they are just strictly called like businesses. They're just businesses for profit. So it's really interesting seeing Mr. Elumelu invest in social entrepreneurs. Most of those who were at the TIP bootcamp were actually social entrepreneurs. Like about 80% of them, I know a lot of my friends who got into the bootcamp, they are social entrepreneurs. So I would like to just, as a last point, understand his perception of social entrepreneurship and then check it out with his background in just basically strictly business that he has. That's comparing his investments, his life investments all across Nigeria and perhaps Africa, which are just strictly businesses, and comparing it with his desire and of course his actions in investing in social entrepreneurship. Does he think social entrepreneurship is the future for Africa?
Mr. Elumelu, did you hear that?
I heard a bit of it, but I think I heard the last question. Do I think social entrepreneurship is the way forward for Africa?
Sure, yes.
Is that correct? Is that the question? Okay, so I think it's all about entrepreneurship, both social entrepreneurship and non-social entrepreneurship. The key thing is that we should rethink the whole concept of philosophy of aid, of giving. You know, we should look at how we give. That if we give in a manner that's sustainable, we can create better social returns to Africans than the way aid was practiced, or giving was social giving was practiced. That's one. Two is that we need to invest in a manner that has both profit and social returns, and not just in a manner that addresses only profit returns. We need to invest, and as I gave even most example, the investment in Matanga Farm, investment, the commodity exchange, these are investments that create economic prosperity or profit, as well as create social returns for mankind. If you go to power investment, the same thing. You know, you make profit for investing in power assets, but at the same time, you also touch lives, you know, by improving access to electricity. So we need to. So I support both. You know, key thing is investments must be sustainable and should be able to address some social challenges that we live with those often face every day. So I'm not a hardline person for one against the other. It's both a combination of let's just invest in a manner that addresses those two objectives. Beju, does that address your comment? Partially. Partially. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Elumelu. I appreciate your time. On behalf of the panelists and the Yali Network, I want to thank you for joining us today, and I thank you for your patience, considering that we had some technical difficulties along the way. But I very much appreciate your time and all of your advice and wisdom, and I wish you the best, and I hope we meet again someday.
Well, Paul, if you've been in Tanzania, in Kenya, we'll meet in Kenya. And Beju, I'm very proud of you, as I keep telling you. You're doing a great work, and most of us, my team, we're all proud of what you're doing. And to everyone, Lulu, Helena, Tekunde, great chatting with all of you, and look forward to seeing some of you in Nairobi. If you're in Nairobi, tweet at me, Tony Elumelu, that's my handle, and we'll be able to meet up. Take good care. Congratulations for all the good job you're doing. And all of us would say well done to President Obama and Yali initiative and great ambassadors who are propagating this and helping to create the movement or the network. We'd like to see the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program deep and the Yali collaborate more. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir.